welcome back to another exciting episode of Lives, Thrives and Mental Health Dives. As I said the other week, we are back in Series 3, which is very exciting, our Pussy Power Feminist series. Today, I have got a very special guest indeed, Miss Robyn Isherwood.
Hello.
An idol and a very good friend of mine, actually. And we are here today to talk about women in male fields. How we navigate that. I say we. How we've navigated being boss bitches. No, but let's start off by talking about how we met, because I actually adore this story.
Oh my goodness. This was actually hilarious.
I got asked this a lot at your party the other night.
Did you?
All your friends were like, so come on, how do you know Robyn?
Oh my goodness. So I had launched Gives and Pop-Up.
Yeah.
The world's first socially distanced festival.
Indeed, it was.
Yeah, in lockdown, which was kind of wild. Sorry
to interrupt, this was the part of lockdown, guys, where literally nothing was open. It wasn't
nothing.
like bubbles at first or anything, was it?
No.
It was like nothing.
It was absolutely nothing. And actually, I'd taken the risk in doing it. It had started with an idea and then it all of a sudden just kind of became this thing. And then we were in global press and it was like the UK's first globally distanced festival. And I was like, oh, fuck, what am I doing? I've never run a festival before. But also I'd moved back home for COVID. So I've been south in London since I was 18.
Yeah, so this is something I always found wild about Robyn's story, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. You are the only person I know that went to uni and did events management and actually has done that as a career. Because how many people did we have a friend that would be like, yeah, I'm going to go and do events management, and I'd think, to do what?
To do what? Me.
Yeah.
Runs multiple event companies around the world. But lockdown happened and I was like, I am not living in my rabbit hutch, which you love.
Yes.
Loved.
Now been sold.
R.I.P.
But I, at the time, was working at Finch Bakery, shout out. And Robyn, I think, had seen me doing some stuff for the social media there. And you reached out to me, didn't you? And weirdly, we had tons of mutual friends and had grown up in the exact same town, but had never met or crossed paths.
Never met. And like so many crossovers. And I knew the Finch twins because they actually danced at the same dance school as my mum. So random. Like I'd been backstage and helped them get ready into outfits to get on stage, like all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'd seen all of your lives, which I was following from the South and lolling out loud at.
The iconic lives.
So I came home and I didn't really know anyone. Well, obviously I had all my friends and stuff, but I needed contacts and people around in the north.
You'd been in London for 10 years at this point, hadn't you?
So moved back to my room and just still had my A-level coursework in the cupboards.
Still had all your ballet badges on the wall.
No, that's no joke.
I know, I've seen your bedroom.
And all the trophies. And then, so I reached out and I was like, do you want to come to Gisborne Park and we can have a chat?
You at first, I think, were like, how would you feel about doing some social media stuff for me? And I think, if memory serves, I kind of had tested the water with the twins and they'd said yes, but as long as it didn't eat into my work schedule there. But obviously I was working full time there. So I felt a bit like I'm either going to give you a half-arsed job and not be able to do what you want me to do, or I'm going to have to politely decline. And then Robyn, relentless Robyn, was like, that's fine, just come down and meet anyway, because I'm sure that we can find you something to do with this. I really want you to be involved. And I was thinking, who is this woman that's harassing me on social media? No, so I came down. And may I just say, it was like nothing we'd ever seen. I don't know if anyone watching actually attended Gisborne Park. It was actually how I wish festivals were now.
No, 100%. Like, especially the Estate Festival, which we did after Gisborne Park, that was like the level up. It was the best festival ever.
Because it was like bar service, where they brought over your beers in a wheelbarrow full of ice. You didn't have to go and queue at the bar. You didn't have to wait at the bar. You didn't have to throw elbows in the crowd. You had your deck chairs, your designated area, and Salado in front of you.
Yeah, it was basically like a VIP club, but in a festival field, sponsored by Moet.
Yeah.
So we had Belvedere bottles, Moet bottles, and you were with your 5 mates away from the other people so they couldn't even come near you, with all the best DJs in the world performing.
It's actually kind of camp when you think about it, that we were all just like, whatever, we've got a field, we've got Moe, that's all we need.
That's all we need.
Throughout that summer, I ended up working pretty much every job going. I was a bar back at one point.
Yeah.
I was a runner.
And then I made you Artist Liaison.
Yes.
So that was like...
I was the ticket desk girl at one point. And then Robyn approached me like at one of the staff parties that we used to attend because there was like 10 of us living on the site in the midst
we all had
of
to bubble. So we were living in a staff. It was like going back to like uni freshers.
Yes, it was.
Like literally sharing bathrooms.
Yeah.
Sharing clothes because I like everything. And like Tess was like the team makeup artist.
Yeah, I was. I just bring my little bag every night. And then Robyn asked me to be an artist liaison, which I had done bits and pieces of in the past, but it was just like a whole different...
Well, yeah, Tess had proved herself, as she would, but everyone loved her. And like, it was so funny because people were commenting on the Facebook like, oh my God, we'll book the tickets only if Tess is on the front desk.
I know, guys.
And it was like seeing a celeb and like all these people were like... I know. Tess from the bakery. And I'm like, just scan your ticket and come in.
This is when I was in my heyday. It's not like that anymore. But what I actually wanted to lead this into was complaints.
Oh my goodness.
So me and Robyn still actually do bits of work together because she's very graciously keeps me on board when she does like different events, etc. And something that it's really educated me about is how much people complain.
It's actually wild. Like, it's so wild. And I think the first time we saw it really bad was when, so after we did the summer pop-up, we did... I can't
talk about this, it gives me PTSD. But what I was going to say before we get into the PTSD was like, I think until you've worked in an event, or more so, planned an event like Robyn. Like I saw Robyn living on 2 chips a day.
It was tater tots, actually.
It's 2 tater tots a day. Absolutely in a world of stress. And then when people come up to you at the festivals like, these drinks aren't very cold, and then leave that on Facebook and you think... That is the least of our thoughts right now. We're trying to make sure we've got fire safety in place. We're trying to keep everybody entertained. We're trying to do
we spent hundreds of thousands. I mean, I lost 100,000 in the process because every single week there was another regulation. So like when we opened, the Boris came out the day before.
Yeah.
And like I had this whole bloody £1 million festival bill. And we didn't even have the approval to go. And then Boris came out and was like, outdoor events can happen. And we were like, boom, we're happening. We're happening. So
and then it changed to in a bubble of 6.
Yeah. And then it was the one-way system. So do you remember we had to like do all the lines on the floor? Then it was the queue systems for the toilets. Then it was the hand sanitizers. And because we were so quick out of the gate, like all of the restrictions weren't in play.
No,
because it was
also we were having to adapt day to day on this, and then people would come down and go, I came last week and I didn't have to go one way to the toilet. Yeah, shit, I'm complaining.
Yeah,
and we'd be like, what do you mean? This is literally the only event,
the only thing that you can do in COVID.
Yeah,
and then it was actually our last week, so we ran for 12 weeks. God rest our souls.
It was actually, honestly,
the best summer of our lives.
Summer of our lives. We were knackered. We were fucking worn down to the bone.
Oh my God.
But let me tell you, we had a bang old time.
8 events a week for 12 weeks. That's not normal.
I remember being on stage with like Sonny Fodera at one point, and I was just in the background like, dun, 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 dun. And I thought, how did I get here?
Yeah, also, how is this COVID? But it was the last event of that in September that the masks came in. Do you remember? The closing party, that's when the masks came.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the complaints. After we did summer and it was wild, we then decided to be the crazy cats to do a Christmas. And we did a socially distanced Santa's Grotto and a drive-in pantomime with our dear friend and my business partner in Creative Events Collective, Amy Morris.
Which, by the way, was amazing.
It was unreal.
I went to the drive-in panto. Bear in
What do
mind,
you mean you went to the drive-in? You were stood in the car park with your high vis on, getting the cars in. Of course you went.
I attended it in a car as well. But like, it was again innovative. No one else was doing anything. And then there's always someone that wants to shit on your fun. I think that's like the thing that I really opened my eyes because I was so like for the idea and for the mission and whatever. Yeah. And then like everyone would turn up and we'd go, the pantomime actors would be like, if you see the baddie, beep your horn. And everyone would be beep, 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 beep. And then people would be like, don't like that, too much beeping.
No, we had 250 official noise complaints with the council.
Yeah.
Because instead of going, he's behind you, you beep your horn.
Yeah.
And then you flash your lights when it was like something funny.
Yeah.
But the locals, I mean, to be fair, we were sold out.
Yeah.
With 250 cars
but also,
a night.
Live a little.
It was also Christmas. But then it was the Santa's Grotto one that was just another level. We were the only ones that made it happen. It had to be 50% uncovered in the north in December.
It was Baltic,
pissing it down with rain, and it was just brutal, wasn't it?
I feel like also now enough time's passed that we can do a bit of an expose about the things that we go through back behind the doors.
Oh,
One
God,
of them
what are you
being
going to say?
the Santa. No. The Santa was unhinged. Okay, if you're watching this, Santa, love you.
No, he was on Bang Out Britain.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, how do you not know this?
No, so this Santa, this is something else I learned along the way, which is about to blow everyone's mind here. If you're a seasonal Santa, and better than that, if you're a good one, you can make a lot of fucking money. I'm talking like 20 grand for the run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you're a convincing, amazing, magical Santa Claus.
But this is the thing, like the biggest cost for our grotto
was him.
And now the grotto in Dubai in Trafford Centre, it's the Santas.
And they are divas, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They can be divas.
The dressing room requirements.
This particular Santa. So, again, we were all living together in this staff house, weren't we?
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
And Santa literally would turn up in the morning and he'd be throwing back a shot of whiskey.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, show me where the kiddies are. And
do you remember? And then he just like passed one of the team his dog. And they were like, you look after that, won't you?
He was fully DBS checked, guys. Okay, we weren't sending an absolute monster in there with your children just to cover that. But he was a strange individual.
But also, we massively fucked up because we had somebody build a ticket website, and it was the first time we'd ever done a kind of time because of social distancing, it had to be timed. It had to be time slots and ticket slots, and we'd sent it through, and there was times and blockouts for lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Do you remember the breaks?
Yeah.
And then it went on sale and it sold out literally in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then I was going through all the bookings and I was like, guys, there's a problem here. There's too many people per day. And I was like, oh my God, we've booked through all of the lunch and breaks. There were no breaks.
There was not a singular break. But it was still a fun time at first. But the two things that I don't think that we had anticipated the ferocity of was one, the northern weather.
Oh
because as soon as it would be raining, it wasn't just raining, it would be like hailstoning. And we've got 50% of the guests outside with young children.
Which they had to be outside because of COVID. So it had to be, you went from check-in to meet Tess. Hello.
Sorry, I was just about to say, me on the ticket desk, they would grab their torches and pitchforks and be like, my young child's out here. And I'd be like, 1 minute, Robyn.
But also the young child would be stood outside in this beautiful little Christmas dress with no coat. No thing, because they wanted it for the aesthetics and the photos, and it's like, this was an outdoor Santa's Grotto, guys.
This event certainly was a learning curve, because the other thing that happened was we had tons of people that had come forward wanting to do Christmas markets, local businesses, and then 2 days before Christmas, they'd all sold out.
Because we were the only ones that were doing it.
Yeah, so then Christmas Eve came, and I remember me and you being like, what are we going to tell there was 300 people when they turn up and there is no Christmas market?
No. Do you remember as well the complaints that there was like Facebook groups that were complaining about us being open?
Sorry,
there was the Brockall Village.
Sorry, and also the pizza oven got stolen.
Yeah, it did. It did.
So two of the hot food options that were offered was like a Neapolitan pizza. God. What happened a week before Christmas? Someone came up at night in the depth of night and stole the pizza oven.
They stole the pizza oven, so we couldn't have pizzas. So again, that was a complaint because we'd sold that we were having pizzas. There were no pizza ovens.
Yes, but these complaints were valid. The point I was trying to make is that a lot of the time with these events, the complaints blow your mind.
Yeah.
And it has actually made me think, moving forward, when I attend events, there's somebody organising this.
Yeah.
And I know that, obviously the important things need to be thought about, but, complaining that your drinks aren't iced, complaining that whatever, that, in an events team, is the least of your worries.
I think recently we've had it, it was really tough this year at the Grotto. So the Grotto Trafford Centre, we've levelled up our Grotto games since the COVID days.
We have.
So it's an immersive, amazing experience at Trafford Centre, and we launched it in Dubai Mall this year.
It's magical.
Interestingly,
it really is.
In Dubai, you're not allowed to complain. It's illegal to complain. So you don't get any comments. It's illegal.
Fantastic. Give me 14 more of them right now.
Yeah.
We'll open that in Dubai.
Yeah.
We'll open...
So
why is that you're not allowed to complain?
you can't. It's like illegal to speak badly of anyone, or like if something's happening. We
my ex-girlfriend there.
We went through this. We went through this training, and it was like, like in England, if something like a kerfuffle's happening, or someone wants to be like and they start filming you, it is literally illegal. You can go to prison for filming something like a bad situation.
So Karens go to jail in Dubai.
Yeah.
Guys, everyone grab your passports, all right? We're headed.
Leaders.
We're heading straight there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let me just kind of divert this back to you specifically, because obviously before we get into the grotto and how amazing that is and just everything to do with that, going back to you being a woman in an events field. So another thing that I've learned through working / being friends with you is you work in a very male-dominated industry.
Oh, God, yeah.
And you have had to deal with a lot of knobs along the way.
A lot of knobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, and I'm not saying this, obviously, this is not a negative thing at all, but like women, we are emotive creatures, aren't we? And I know when I've had, situations where I work, etc., with men, how do you deal with that when you're working at the level that you do?
I think it's really difficult. I think it's taken quite a few years for me to kind of grow my confidence. And COVID obviously was a bit of a curveball, but before then I just left a big company. Interestingly, that actually wasn't males.
Really?
Yeah, that was females. But when I then left, I kind of had to find my own feet. There was non-competes, there was all sorts of, as you'd expect. And then I found myself working with a number of males across a number of the projects that we worked on. And, I think, reflecting back on the time, I was in a very vulnerable position because the whole time that we did Gisborne Park, so for a year and a half, I didn't pay myself a penny. So I think another situation, another thing where people are like, it's too expensive. I'm like, guys,
it's just covering the cost of your good time. I've
invested $100,000 and I'm not paying myself a penny.
Yeah.
So and I think actually, if I'd have properly done things right and structured, I probably wouldn't have been quite so bullied into that position.
I think also, it's seen as, I know certainly in America, it's seen as quite an admirable thing to have an entrepreneurial idea and fail. Whereas in this country, I don't think it's viewed in that same way, because when you are doing events or any business, sometimes there are cash flow issues. There are these things that aren't even necessarily your fault, but if your name is at the front, and I think me knowing you in a personal capacity as well, I know what a soft, sincere woman you are.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to just face the music, don't you?
Yeah.
And that's hard.
It's really hard. And I think the biggest learnings came to me over that stint in COVID, because obviously there was Gisborne Park pop-up and then the Estate Festival. And, every day we're dealing with the government changing things, which then increases your costs. So it needs 2 security per one person all of a sudden, then where you thought you were budgeted at. But I think for me, it was the disappointment and the letdown of, I've given my actual soul.
Yes, but Robyn, you gave the Ribble Valley a summer.
Yeah.
And then this brings me to my next thing. Do you think you would have been given more credence if you were a man? Do you think people would have been more pat on the back, or do you think that it's...
Yeah, I think the issue is that
is credence the right word?
I don't know.
Is it kudos?
Kudos, maybe. I think it's kudos.
Sorry, guys.
But I think it's probably more so that the males involved in both of those festivals, from supplier to business partners to, I'm an easy target.
Yeah.
I am a really easy target because I'm the girl that is completely broken from doing 8 events a week for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
I've also invested money into both festivals, and so I'm desperate to make it work or make something right.
Yeah.
And I just mentally wasn't in a good place because I was broken and battered and didn't have any support. So then you're bait for them.
You're easy to villainize.
It's so easy to take, to pick, to drill down on, to threaten, to bully, to lie, to the amount of things that kind of went through that. And it was a brutal time and it was a breaking time for me.
Yeah.
One that obviously at times you just think,
was it worth it type thing.
Like,
but this brings me to my next thing, resilience.
Yeah.
And this is when I wanted to circle back to the grotto and all the stuff that you're doing now.
Yeah.
Because clearly it has shaken you to the core, but it hasn't stopped you.
I think that's the difference of being an entrepreneur that wants to actually be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I think there's so many buzzwords around be your own CEO and be your own entrepreneur. And it's fucking bullshit. Like, it's fucking hard work. It's hard graft. And you have to be prepared to fail. You know, I look at Giz and Pop Up and the estate as a marketing expense for me to platform myself to where I then launched Encore and now Creative Events Collective.
Yeah.
It put me on the map.
Yes.
I was in the Financial Times, I was in Forbes, I was in the New York Times, New York Post, I was in global press. So if that cost me £100,000,
it was worth it.
Quite cheap marketing, to be honest. But you really have to kind of look at things as like, okay, it's a loss. It was a big, hard pill to swallow. But where have I platformed myself from there? And what have I learned? What I've learned is to not go into business with people that you really don't trust, and to ensure that you have contracts in place that you understand a lawyer has checked and they have checked it on behalf of you. To protect you and your personal assets. Yeah. You know, it's so important that's where your investment is. And like, I learned the hard way, hard way. Yeah. And so now the way I go into business is very different. There are structures, there are contracts, there are legals. I don't sign a contract without my lawyers checking. Even if it's the smallest thing, I don't care. Yeah. I'm like, it protects you. Is there anything in there that's going to fuck over me or my business? If there is, let's remove it. Let's go back. And I think that was the mindset shift. Like, I've always wanted to have my own business. I remember I was 23 and I was in my first job. I was younger than that. At 23, I just started at Lillingston, and I was asked, what's your five-year plan? I said, I'll have my own company in 5 years. Yeah. And it was like, what? But you're 23. And I was like, I will. And then, interestingly, I actually did have my own company within Lillingston. They gave me my own company with shareholders. So I've always been that driven version of myself. But I think, you know, that entrepreneur side of things, it's hard graft. And it's no shit. It's really lonely at times, and cash flow pinches and issues. And I
think it can be lonely at times as well, because with each stage of success comes new challenges. Yeah. And also, people cost money, and not everybody, as you've just said, is your friend. No. So it's not like you could say, guys, I know I've only got the money to pay you all till 10 p.m, but we all probably actually need to work till 1. No one gives a flying fuck. No. They're not being paid. It's you stood there at the end of the day, stapling ribbons to walls to make sure everything's finished.
Exactly. And I think that's another thing, is that, you know, I pride myself in protecting our teams. And so does Amy. You know, when we work amazingly together, we have such similar values, and you know, we've both got our own companies and then creative events, and you know, at the end of the day, we need to ensure the people are paid. Yeah. And sometimes when you have to prioritize your payments in terms of your corporates, your big companies and whatever else, like, and we always try and do the people, because the corporate can hold back. Yeah. You know, sometimes it might get a little bit aggressive. Sometimes, well, I mean, bloody hell, I was like threatened and told
they're going to kneecap you.
Yeah, literally, all my family. That was a fun one. Yeah. Be honestly, your own CEO.
We laugh, but it's not funny, it's serious. Yeah. This was like an era in life. Yeah,
it was. And so I think, you know, going through what I've been through, I actually now have the confidence in, no, I am actually really good at my job, but actually you just have to keep pushing. Amy actually sent me a podcast and I listened to it the other day, and it was talking about the different stages of entrepreneurship, essentially. And you've got to go through all these stages. And if you don't go through the first...
You're not equipped mentally for like the next stage.
The first, say, 20%. And then you go, oh, I can't do it, I quit.
Yeah.
Can't do this. Next week, you're launching a new company and you're trying something new. You're always in that middle ground of being that entrepreneur. You're not actually then taking yourself into being like the successful version of yourself. It's like with Encore, we're now 4. And the first 2 years was tough.
Yeah.
You know, we launched as the travel windows opened in COVID.
Yeah.
But I'm also going up against my previous companies that I've worked at and huge competitors that have 25 to 30 years on their books and portfolios and everything else. And it's like, you know, in the age where I can't post their photos even though I did the event for them on my Instagram.
No.
So then you've got this kind of whole fake it to make it, and you've got filler content, and it's like aesthetically pleasing grid.
Sorry, speaking of faking it to making it, let me tell you a quick story about when I went to visit Robyn in London.
I don't know where this is going to go.
You do.
There's been many trips. Oh, God.
I know where this is going to go. So, right, whenever I come down to London with Robyn, I know it's going to be like a bougie trip. And God bless you, a lot of the time Robyn will like not let me put my hand in my pocket. Like she's literally like, no, you've come to visit me, etc.
Yeah, so, usually because I'm also using you to then be back in my bougie days because I'm like way a home girl now.
Oh, yeah, sorry. This is a few years ago.
This is a few years ago. But I'm like, okay, you're coming. We're going to Air Bougie Club.
Yeah, so we were in London and Robyn was like, yeah, you know, like we'll go to a few bars in Mayfair. Now, for those of you that don't know, like I didn't, Mayfair is probably the most expensive place to go out in London.
It's got even worse.
And Robyn at the time had been doing some events for Annabelle's, which again, if you do not know, is like probably the most exclusive, coveted membership nightclub in England, isn't it? It's a big deal. So I had no clue. I was turning up in there in my pretty little thing 2-piece. And Robyn's there in her Louis Vuitton head to toe with her Chanel handbag and her Louis Vuittons on.
I actually wasn't. I was wearing the Zara check sequin double outfit.
All right, she was wearing Zara,
but
guys.
I was probably wearing a Chanel.
Yeah.
And some Jimmy Choos.
So I turned up in, you know, my boohoo. And Robyn was like, this is it. I'm just going to speak to them, obviously, and we'll both go in. And I was like, okay, great. So we went in there, we're slurping on champagne. God only knows how much it cost. Probably the same cost as the tears of Jesus Christ himself. And once I'd had a few drinks in there, we left there and we went to this other bar, which looked a bit more like a dive bar, even though I suppose that doesn't really exist in Mayfair, but I was drunk by this point.
I mean, it's definitely not a dive bar.
So I was in there.
Monkey House. If anyone knows, it was Monkey House in London. It's definitely not a dive bar.
And I turned to Robyn and very nobly went, Robyn, put your money away. I've got these.
But she's doing it as if to be like, dead staring the barman after just ordering drinks, looking at me and being like, put your money away. These are on me.
These are on me.
Speaking to the barman. And then
I ordered.
And then he said, and you get one as well. Yep, you put yourself one on that list.
Cocky as fuck in Mayfair. Great.
Also in most bars, if they put one on if they get a shot for themselves, they don't charge for it. But in Mayfair, they did.
Yeah. So I went, what do you want? And Robyn was like, I'll just get the same as you. So I was like, all right, we'll just have a couple of porn star martinis. So I'm stood there looking this bar guy straight in the eyes, shaking it up, looking at me, and then he pushed them across the bar at me. Guess how much it was? He turned the ticket around. The round was £78. And it included a service charge for him pushing it across the bar to me.
I think it's 17.5%. You
And I just remember my soul left my body and I was like that. And Robyn went, let me see it, looked at the ticket and then went, do you want me to get these? And I went, yes, please.
It was so funny.
And
it was like,
Mayfair.
What, like the colour drained from your face and literally you were like,
Moral of the story, Robyn is a very generous friend, but also don't go out in Mayfair and try to give it licks because you'll end up coming back badly on you. Yeah. So let's now head over to the Grotto, our latest project. Like, it's not my project, I just work there. But the leaps and bounds that has come along since the pizza oven got stolen and we left the kids out in the hail.
Honestly.
So now the Grotto is honestly this immersive magical wonderland. And the first time I saw it this year, because the site had tripled in size this year, I was like blown away. There's like professional actors that come out and interact with the queue. They're real elves for any children watching that take you on this magical journey. You go to Santa's workshop, you have to knock on a magical door, you post a letter, they stamp the letter, and Father Christmas magically knows your name and everything you want for Christmas. I was blown away. And you guessed it, more complaints.
Yeah, this year was tough.
This is where I think I became a bit territorial in a way, because obviously I just worked there and that was great, but it amazes me what people expect for a certain price, and how complacent. Now, don't get me wrong. If there is a genuine complaint that is something,
you can spot it.
You can spot it, and that is absolutely fine. I had one situation where a woman had like twin boys.
Yeah.
One of them had got juggling balls as a present, and the other one had got a puzzle. And she was like, "They're just going to argue. Can we have 2 juggling balls? Not a problem.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah,
we get it. It happened, etc." There was even one funny scenario where this mum came up to me and she was like, "I really don't want to be a pain, but my little boy is Manchester United mad." And I went, "Okay, right." And she was like, so anyway, he went in and saw Santa and went, "Are you wearing red because you're a Man United fan?" And Santa had apparently been like, "No, I'm a Leeds United fan and now you're on the naughty list."
Oh, yeah.
And I had to say to the woman, I went, "Okay, first of all," I said, "yeah, a poorly timed joke." Okay.
Oh, the kid was mortified. Yeah, I remember seeing the email.
She was like, he's 6. And I was like, yeah, maybe that would have been better for a 10-year-old, all right? I'll give it to you.
Yeah. P.S. He's not on the naughty list. Nobody panic.
No one panic.
No.
But other than, like, obviously the hiccups that happen, it just blows my mind. Like, I went onto Facebook and then you kind of sent me the data that you did afterwards, didn't you?
Yeah, so this year we felt there was anger. And I think that's to do with the cost of living. I think that was to do with, I think we felt like there was a lot more people that were booking last minute, especially in the November dates.
Yeah.
And then complaining about the most ridiculous things. We were outside for 45 minutes and then we were waiting inside for another 20 minutes. Well, we can see, first of all, we know what time your time slot is.
Yeah.
Second of all, when you scan those tickets in, we know what time you checked in.
Yes.
And then we can then see when you come out the other side. So we can see you lying.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, we can't really call you out for lying. But anyway, it was just, and then they wanted a full refund.
See, I think this is the culture that I was kind of saying is a tricky one to deal with, because I think people want a lot for nothing. No. I'm not saying that in a snide way. I am a school teacher. I'm not Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I, until recently, lived alone. I'm not like, sneezing and wiping it away with a £50 note.
No.
But at the same time, it amazes me what people will try and complain about in order to get...
it's just wild. And then we'd do a bit of research into it and we'd check out their Instagrams and they'd have all the pictures posted, amazing time, but they didn't come and find one of the 10 managers that were on site to be like, "I've got a problem," like the woman did about the football.
Yeah.
Like you've all of the management are really visible on site.
Absolutely.
But there was none of that. It was just a keyboard warrior afterwards, and then the Facebook reviews, and then like hate breeds hate.
Yes, completely agree.
So then you have one person complain and then the next one complains about the same thing that they've complained about, because I think they think that, oh, well, if they've put that complaint there, then we're going to also get a refund. And then the next one complain. And honestly, it was like, I totally agree. And then they were all commenting on each other. Now, in the moment, it was really heartbreaking for me and Amy, and then obviously for you as well. Because, we had to tell the team about it, and we had to kind of be like, guys, like these are the complaints we're getting. But in the moment, you focus on that, and there was probably 25 bad reviews.
Total.
Yeah. And we had 39,000 people through.
Yeah.
But you still focus on it. You still really hone in on it.
It's hard not to take it personally though, because even me, who was just working there as like a manager, I'm turning up there and I'm like Mary fucking Poppins for those children.
Yeah.
I'm like that. Did you see the real Father Christmas? No, you threw a snowball.
Which is exhausting.
It's like an acting job.
Yeah, it's
literally.
Exhausting. So then it really interestingly, we got a really shit situation. It was on the second to last day that we were open, but some cheap writer from the Daily Mail who didn't really have much of, any backstory or anything, she'd gone onto our Facebook, and it was like a theme that the Daily Mail were running. They wanted to post all the pictures of our celebrities and get the clickbait for the celebrities.
Yeah.
They wanted that.
Yeah.
But then we looked into it and it was like a trend. They did Paddington, they did, what's the rail one? Then
Polar Express.
The Polar Express. Like, they really went down to be like another rip-off Christmas event. And I'm like, guys, like, why are you fueling this fire?
Also, just as a little ad lib, the Polar Express was £60 a ticket.
£60 a ticket, yeah.
The Grotto's 20. And
25.
25, sorry.
It's actually 27 this year.
Oh.
Sorry, guys. But we are going on sale tomorrow, and early bird discount for 2024 prices. Sign up now.
Will I be there? I don't know. I've only just grown back the bald patches from the stress.
But what we actually did this year is we've sent out a survey, and we really didn't know how this was going to go. Mm-hmm. Because Daily Mail posted a shitty article. They copied and pasted all of the Facebook reviews with their names, which I thought, oh, burn. They've all been, but they put all the pictures of all the celebs at the top of the article for clickbait.
Because it's clickbait,
I was just like, oh. Anyway, we sent out a review this year, and it's the first time we've done it, and we cannot believe the response. We had 489 people reply, and there's 1% that said that they wouldn't come back.
That's amazing.
1%.
But I believe it.
Yeah. And it's like, we've asked for constructive criticism. Did you feel like you had enough time to write your letter with Santa?
Yeah.
Did you feel, would an outdoor cover for, because the queues outside this year, would an outdoor cover make the start of the journey more enjoyable? Mm-hmm. Would you like more opportunities for photos? And we've given them scale of 1 to 5. Yes, no. Or do you feel like you had enough time in with Santa?
Yeah.
And even that, like, 97% of people said yes.
Yeah.
But it's the 25 reviews on your Facebook that are all like, what a joke. It was an absolute rush.
Oh, it's annoying.
We were in for 12 minutes. It's actually impossible because
like
every single room is timed.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a timer in each room so that everyone's getting the same amount of time. And like you said before, I'd see people outside like, well, no, I'm not really happy. No, me and kids are freezing. And I'd think, none of you got a coat on.
Yeah.
It's December.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw one guy come up in a t-shirt and a gilet.
Yeah.
And he was literally stood outside going, joke this.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, sir, you are in a t-shirt. And
it has it in all of our confirmation emails. It has it on our website. The queuing is outside. But however much you tell these people, like also the loo thing.
Yeah.
It's like, there are no loos at the Grotto.
Sorry, also, that accent is just the accent that I do when someone's complaining. It's just my go-to northern.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not taking the piss out of anyone northern, because I am actually myself.
We both
northern.
are.
Yeah, we are. People out there like, why I ought to see making fun of my voice. That's just my complaints voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
sorry, yeah,
the toilets one. The toilet one.
That was a rough one.
And the reason why we couldn't say that there were toilets was because the toilets were in the back of house, which is in the dressing rooms. Now, if little Billy Bobby, if we agree,
tell you, I took one step in those boys' toilets that all the Santas were using. Yeah. You wouldn't have wanted to take your child in there.
But it's not even that. Like, we have two shifts. Sorry, I'm going to break some magic here. But, what you don't want to see is Santa who's taking a break and having a cup of cocoa.
Sat in the back. But also, people, I think to myself, if you have a young child, take them for a way before. They'd let them come to the door, the kid's bouncing.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, where's the nearest toilet? And honestly, it's hard sometimes not to break this face, isn't it? But I'd be like, the nearest toilet is the Trafford Centre, just there.
Yeah. The huge Orient, the food court.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah, but I don't want this all to just be like negative spin on the Grotto. No. The Grotto has been absolutely amazing.
What I'm actually, the roundup on that is if you are in business and you are kind of, facing some backlash, everyone loves to do the cancel culture now, which is just bullshit. Actually, the people that shout the loudest aren't your majority.
No.
They're really not. And I think
also,
Amy and I...
culture can be a positive, as you've just said about your husband.
Yeah.
You thought you were getting cancelled. Yeah. Actually, it got you in the global press and you're still doing amazing things.
Exactly. So I just think, don't hone in on those negative ones, but if there's anything you can do to kind of make those, we've had 489 positive reviews. Yeah. I'm like, why haven't they left us a Facebook review? Why did the 25?
Because they're too busy being happy to go on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's why.
So that would be my word of advice. Just don't listen to the noise.
And carry on being a bad bitch if you're also a woman wanting to go into business.
100%.
You have to block it out.
Haters gonna hate.
Potatoes gone potato.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right.
But thank you so much for coming on to my lovely episode of the pod. And we will see you next time, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks so much.